North Carolina. He finished first today with a time of 1 hour, 44 minutes, and 21 seconds. The 68-year-old Bruce Newman finishing first in the wheelchair hand crank division.
Now, Dave Burdan, so we do have confirmation he has dropped out of the race. He knew it could happen. It can happen to anybody, no matter how long or how hard you train or how good you are at it. And one of the things he always likes to say, or he always says, is, I cannot control what other people do, and I cannot control what happens to my body. I have no idea what my body's going to decide to do when I show up to the starting line that day, and that has clearly happened to him.
And we could tell early in this race that Dave Burdan was struggling. You could see the left hip was bothering him. By about mile 3, it was evident, and we talked about the fact that he had a hitch in his stride, and then you could see his face, his grimaces, and his struggle, as Kate pointed out, with his arms. A very different story for Brian Rosenberg, who, as he approaches mile number 20, continues with a methodical gait, a very fluid running style, a style that he has used to increase his lead now to a little more than 3 minutes. His goal, of course, is to hit the finish line and then head over to Celebration Village, where he'll have a chance to do that very thing, celebrate. Jen Franciani is set up in the Celebration Village. And Jen, I know there are a lot of people waiting to see who will be first to the finish line in the men's marathon.
You are absolutely right about that, Jerry. In fact, people are already lining up there to get the best view possible. But Celebration Village for right now is the place to be if you've already run your race or you're just getting ready to cheer on the runners.
Thank you, Jen. As our leader, Brian Rosenberg, starts to close in on Lake Montebello. He'll make the 1.2-mile loop around Lake Montebello, and then it's downhill. The uphill climb is done for the leader, Brian Rosenberg, a third-place finisher a year ago, in first place in the 2014 Baltimore Marathon. A man who knows how to navigate the tax code continues to navigate the streets of Baltimore. Brian Rosenberg, a 37-year-old CPA from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, the leader at mile 20 as he winds his way around Lake Montebello. He has endured the uphill climb, that 5-mile stretch on the east side of this course that is predominantly uphill. The course will flatten out now here. When he comes out of Lake Montebello, he will go from east to west across 33rd Street before hitting Howard Street, working his way down to the final turn onto Utah Street. That will bring him through the Utah Street corridor at Oriole Park and Camden Yards onto Ravens Walk, where the final 0.2 of a mile awaits him, and that could be his chance to win the Baltimore Marathon. His pace has slowed, as you would expect, on the uphill climb, but his stride is still relatively effortless. He has stood up to the toughest part of the course. Kate, there's only one question left for him to answer, and that is, does he have enough left in the tank? Because he has a 3-minute and 30-second lead over the nearest competitor, Chris Beck. Check that, Chris Bain. And the third-place competitor, Chris Beck, more than 4 minutes off the pace. So for the moment, if Brian Rosenberg has the endurance in the tank, this is his race to jog away with.
And at this point, he's going to add time to that lead from this point on. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back. Faces the last challenge of miles 21 through 26.2 as we continue our coverage of the Baltimore Running Festival on this spectacular Saturday in Baltimore. Brian Rosenberg working his way around Lake Montebello. It is a solitary stride. He has had the lead since mile 12 when he overtook the defending champion, Dave Burdan, who had to drop out of the race, bothered by a hip injury that Burdan suffered during training. We knew Burdan was going to face the test of not only the miles but also the pain which eventually led to a change of leadership and the withdrawal of the defending champion. So this,
the third-place finisher a year ago, Brian Rosenberg, a father of 4 from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. When he comes out of the loop at Lake Montebello, he will have 5.2 miles left to go, the majority of that downhill. So he has endured the toughest part of the race geographically, but physiologically, while he is running on an average of 5:42 miles. For the first time, Kate, it looks like Rosenberg is starting to struggle. The good news for him, he has a 3.5-minute lead over the nearest competitor, a 4.5-minute lead over the third-place runner.
This is the point where your mind takes over. Logically, your mind's saying, you can't keep doing this, you're going to die. Your body's not supposed to do it. It's a mental battle, and the crowd can help propel you. Dave Burdan told us that it helped him in 2013. If you've never seen the leader of a marathon go by, it is worth it. It's thrilling. Get out of your house. Go stand on the side of the road. He's at Lake Montebello. He's heading toward you. Help this guy keep it up. Help him get to the finish, or the guy behind him.
Striding along, wearing his shades, Brian Rosenberg is the man to watch now for the final 5.2 miles of this race. The next group of the half marathon is ready to break from the gate. Jason Newton is standing by in the Inner Harbor with more on that.
Thank you, Jason. No, we want to go out to Rob Roblin. He's on Key Highway, and don't think that people aren't going to be coming by there. In this race now, there are more people who run slower than faster. 76% of the people in this race will take more than 4 hours. 4 hours or more to finish. So Robbie hasn't even seen half those runners yet.
But Robbie, you have seen the course come to life throughout the course of this morning when it was just kind of you and a few friends at the start of the race.
You're right.
You've got quite the crowd down there on Key Highway.
Oh, there's a huge crowd down here. This is the baton changes here, the third leg for the relay here. So
all righty, Robbie, looks like the early birds have the edge. We'll see how that one finishes up for the BAL portion of this race. But the big race still has Brian Rosenberg out in front as he works his way across 33rd Street. Amidst the shadows and the memories of old Memorial Stadium, it's no longer standing, but 33rd Street still stands as a major landmark for the runners of this marathon because they know now there are only 4 miles left to compete. And if Brian Rosenberg can stand up to those last 4 miles, most of which are downhill, then he will become the 2014 champion of the Baltimore Marathon.
Back to you guys, Jerry, Kate.
Thank you, Robbie. It's Brian Rosenberg who continues to set the pace out front in the men's portion of the Baltimore Marathon. He's on mile 23. It is downhill from here. If Rosenberg can hold up, he's very comfortable working a spreadsheet, the 37-year-old accountant, and his margin of lead continues to spread out here on the final 3 miles of the Baltimore Marathon. We continue to celebrate the winners at the finish line. Under Armour's relay team has won the relay portion, 1,200 relay teams, and Under Armour finishes first. Bit of an upset there, surprising the defending champion, the Falls Road running team. So just as we have seen in the men's category, we will not have repeat winners in the relay team. The men's category, the champ a year ago, Dave Burdan, had to withdraw at mile 13 because of a left hip injury. We hope to visit with Dave Burdan a little later on in our broadcast after we get a chance to visit with the men's winner, who at the moment appears to be Brian Rosenberg. He still has to stand up to the final 2.2 miles as he now has just reached mile number 24. So it's across the Howard Street Bridge. Then he'll work his way to Utah Street, and then what is got to be the greatest sight for the marathon runners in Baltimore when they lay eyes on the Camden Yards warehouse, because once they get through the Utah Street corridor, it's 0.2 of a mile to the finish line, and Brian Rosenberg is closing in on the men's side.
We will take a break, and when we come back, we're going to calculate. I think he could set a new personal record today. That would be amazing to watch.
Family and friends gathering along this course to watch all of the competitors, not just those out in front, but those looking for personal best, those looking just to finish today. The daunting challenge of whether you run 13.1 miles in the half, 3.2 in the 5K, or 26.2 in the men's and the women's marathon. And our men's leader continues to be Brian Rosenberg. But down to the Inner Harbor, Jason Newton standing by where the crowd continues to gather, both spectators and competitors, Jason.
And Jason, you know what would be even more sad? In your spot, if those people are running the marathon, the guy in the turkey suit, you're going to see him twice because they go out toward Fort McHenry and they come back.
All right, well, nobody's calling this guy a turkey. Brian Rosenberg now heading toward mile 25. 2 hours and 23 minutes into this race. He is closing in on winning the Baltimore Marathon. He took the lead at mile 12. He has held it now for 12 miles with 2 miles left to go in the running of the 2014 Baltimore Marathon.
Welcome back to our coverage of the 2014 Baltimore Marathon. You're looking at the leader, Brian Rosenberg, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, with a comfortable lead. He's finishing up mile 24, rolling along. Told the spotter he feels comfortable. There's a little wind, mile 22 and 23, but he's over that. He's cutting down his times. He's got to keep running the last 2.5 miles in under a 6-minute pace if he wants to hit his goal.
And he has just crossed a mile marker 25, so 1.2 miles left to go as he will work his way down Martin Luther King Boulevard, Howard Street, Utah Street, and then the finish line on Ravens Walk. And he has stood up to the uphill climb on the eastern edge of this race, and that's where we are joined now live by George Lettuce at Patterson Park. George, the vast majority of the runners coming your way now.
Absolutely, Jerry. The last time you saw me about an hour and a half ago, there was nobody here at Eastern Avenue and Linwood Avenue in Patterson.
All right, thank you, George. It's Kate. We're going to take a quick break because when we come back, we are going to watch the winner of the 2014 Baltimore Marathon cross the finish line.
Everyone loves an accountant who can finish fast, and we have one today in the Baltimore Marathon, a race that began before sunrise. We've seen it wind 26.2 miles through the streets of Baltimore, and now it reaches its crescendo as the leader, Brian Rosenberg, a 37-year-old accountant from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, has started to make his way to the Utah Street corridor. He's going by the Hilton Hotel, and then he will pass the Babe Ruth statue on the outside of Oriole Park, and that's his sign that he has 0.2 of a mile left before he's on to Ravens Walk and the finish line. It is his to win now. He took the lead from the defending champion Dave Burdan at mile 12. Burdan had to withdraw from the race at mile 13 because of a failing hip. Nothing failing for Brian Rosenberg as he endured the uphill climb from Patterson Park to Lake Montebello. He endured the winds around Lake Montebello, and now it is his race to win as he makes his way toward the most scenic part of this race, the Utah Street corridor. To his left, the Camden Yards warehouse. To his right, the field at Camden Yards, a field that produced a division champion this year for the Orioles and will produce a championship today for Brian Rosenberg in the Baltimore Marathon. He goes under the AL East Division Championship banner, and he will hoist his own championship banner, a championship medallion. He has 0.2 of a mile left now as he comes out of Utah Street, and the crowd will soon see, as they see now along the line, this year's winner of the Baltimore Marathon. And you can see The champion has been absolutely flawless in his stride. Brian Rosenberg stood up to the defending champion, stood up to the hill, stood up to the wind, and now he will get a chance to come down Ravens Walk. In this case, it's Ravens Run today, as he will finish in between Oriole Park at Camden Yards at M&T Bank Stadium, and he finishes to a gauntlet of cheers as the crowd welcomes the 2014 Baltimore Marathon champion. It's Brian Rosenberg who will be first to the tape. He closes in on the final 10 meters, and he crosses the finish line as the champion of the Baltimore Marathon. Brian Rosenberg, the winner. The unofficial time, just a shade more than 2 hours and 33 seconds. 2 hours and 33 minutes, about 3 minutes behind last year's pace set by Dave Burdett. And Brian Rosenberg taking a much